Hello, my name's Andrew Johnstone. I'm an artist and I specialise in a type of art called trompe l'oeil, which means deceive the eye. This is a small bathroom up in Napa, and the client wanted me to convert this thing into an Egyptian tomb. They met or at the end of the honeymoon when they were in Cairo. So I started blocking in the back wall and then picked a point of perspective and encouraged your eye to move through the wall. This next shot is everything done with the airbrushing. And there we go. It was a ton of fun. The clients were actually away when I did the work, so this was a huge surprise when they got back. The hieroglyphs actually read. I found a hieroglyphics translator. These people work for, I think, Sun Microsystems. So this stuff like Bill Gates for Pharaoh, and I think in one place it says, if you can read this, you watch too much PBS. So I never told them what it said. Maybe one day somebody will decipher it. So that's a flat wall you're looking at right there. I paint it just to encourage your eye to pass through this and take you into another space. It makes this fairly small bathroom gigantic feeling. The ceiling is also done with an azure sky with 24 karat gold gilt stars. This was a small job I did for a friend of mine, good friend of mine, who was going through a little bit of medical stuff. I converted her back porch to a vista, instant view. Took the porch supports into the painting too. Very very fun. A friend of mine moved into a small apartment and said, can you do something with my teeny kitchen? So he had no window, so I painted him one. There we go. This is my loft. I lived for a number of years in an artist loft down in Jack London Square, and that was my view. Well, not really. You'll see the desk lamp in a minute. There we go. That was how I painted the back wall of the loft. It was a big space. It was somewhere around 35 feet by 12 feet, and had these natural columns in the room. So I gave it this post-quake look. Looked like the earthquake had been and the concrete had busted off, and you were looking out into this view of the bay. And so there's the city behind. I put the bay in fog. One, because it looked cool, but two, because it saved me a ton of time painting all the crap below. It was easier to kind of give that foggy look, and it worked real well. It's very difficult painting as far as this perspective, because it was so wide, and also turned a couple of corners. I tried to encourage you to come straight on and in, using the far tower of the bridge as the focal point. People didn't even notice it. It was so quiet. This was for a job at San Francisco General Hospital. It was for a waiting room for Medi-Cal patients. They have to wait the longest, and their seats are the hardest. So give them a view. I took the windows and such that were already in the room and made that part of the painting. A friend of mine also at the loft, he had a third-story loft in a four-story room, four-story building, and wanted a skylight, which is of course impossible. So I painted him one. I went into the stairwell and sketched out the stairwells to help with the perspective. So there it is, from beginning to end. I also made the perspective an orthoscopic projection, which means it's been made to be viewed from an angle, so that when you're looking up at it at 45 degrees, it makes sense. So there's the space, and there it is. All the shadows for the opening as well are all airbrushed onto the ceiling. If you look at top right, you can see this piece of tape there that I left on. Client had a kid, 10-year-old kid, wanted his room to look like a reef. So they were ready to call the police at this stage. But it all worked out. There we go. I had a plan. But they wanted to go with this Disney look, and I dissuaded them. I said, you know, this kid's got to be embarrassed by the room in a few more years, and we'll be painting it out. This will be a room that will look cool forever. This is bread and butter work. This is a sales development, a development for a subdivision called the Avenues, and they wanted me to create an avenue for their sales office. So that's the painting. It was done on canvas and then taken up to the site. So there's the canvas on the floor, and there's the opening. And then it was pasted and then trimmed out to fit the opening. And then the wall painted a little darker. I like to paint the wall a little darker. It's called contre lumiere. It just makes the painting look brighter. We try and do what we can for non-for-profits. So there's a non-for-profit in Berkeley called Carpentry for Kids. They teach kids who have developmental problems or behavior problems how to communicate through woodshop. You know, they're doing art, they're measuring, they're building. So what I wanted to do was create this space scene. That's the background. Here's the foreground. I wanted to make it look like it was torn paper. So I block in where all the paper, I can imagine where the paper's all torn, and then glaze it to give it the curl and the crinkle. And then we can see how it's going. So here we go from the beginning. Here's the first weekend, putting the foreground in. And there's the finish. It was kind of a boring room, and it really dramatically improved the room. The guy said that the kids' work also improved by osmosis. You know, they were subjected to a piece of art, and they kind of raised their own game. I had a client down in Paso Robles wanted me to paint his aircraft hangar. He had this really cool Waco biplane. I did the work on canvas, took it down, 50% painted, because it needs to be done, finished in place. So there we go. He was knocked out. He was very happy, man. I got this huge wall at Tucker's Ice Cream in Alameda. This is a 25 feet by 20 feet wall, and took the perspective of the room into the painting to blur the edge. The bars were there as a seismic retrofit. There was nothing I could do about them, so I just imagined them gone. And there we go. Again, I sent a client down there and they couldn't find the painting. They walked right past it. They just took it for granted that it was real. I had a commission to do a dome. It was a true dome, 24 feet across. And these clients had pretty strong ideas about what they wanted. They wanted a classical view, you know, temples, Battle of Thermopylae, all this business. There are big problems about painting on a dome in that as the dome edge turns, you have foreshortening problems with perspective. So all these I managed to sort out. You can see my cartoon under there on paper, which I pants onto the ceiling. So there's the sketch, and here is the dome completed. It was a lot of fun. It's nice to tread in the feet of the masters, you know, and paint a true Renaissance dome. This was a fun little project in a mud room coming in from a garage into a house. They had this teeny little room. Could you do something? So I painted this Gothic arch with the wisteria going out into a garden. And these people were These people were delighted. They said they were happy every time they came in from work, which is just it's dynamite. It's very nice when you can delight people, and it really worked for a small space like that. This is another project I had at Tucker's. They had a back room in the building that was not being used. It was used for storage. So that's how I first saw the space, and that's how I kind of pitched the idea. I thought, oh, some sort of an arch and a view, kind of a Capri Coast kind of deal. And there it is. But what I want you to do is see how I got from beginning to end with this. Oh, there's a day at the office. You see I'm using a chalk line, snapping chalk lines from a perspective geometry. There's no easy way. Dab at a time. So here we go from beginning to end. So I start with the blank, the space, take everything out of the room, and draw myself a horizon line and a vanishing point on the wall. I block it off with tape, and I start constructing the painting from a vanishing point that's in the center. Put in the background, start to paint the hills. This corridor that I painted there on the left just pulled you, it was a device to pull you into the painting. Start putting the overhead in. Encouraging the detail and just building it up. And then start putting the foreground in. More and more and more. There we go. It really did a number on this teeny little space. Oh, I also put a spoon on the ledge there, painted in. Kate Pryor, who owns the place, is a neat freak, and I just put it there to mess with her head. She said it bothered her every day for about 6 months. That little corridor down there really helped. It really kind of pulled you on and into the painting, which is what I try and do. And finally, I'm just going to show you how I use a computer sometimes to help. This is a place up in Napa. They had a crazy room up in Napa, and wanted a sort of a Tuscany view. So I construct it on the computer first. That helps with my perspective geometry and some of the shadowing. And there we are, instant view. Well, thanks for watching this. It's been fun, and I'll keep updating it.